The mountain didn't forgive mistakes. At 14,000 feet, it simply erased them. Staff Sergeant Cole Maddox had made plenty of mistakes in his career. Bad intel, missed shots, wrong calls under fire. But leaving someone behind? That was supposed to be unthinkable. Until it wasn't. In the frozen hell of the Zagan Range, surrounded by bodies and blood and a storm that swallowed sound itself, Maddox looked at Lena Voss, quiet, detached, unreadable Lena, and made the calculation every commander dreads. She was hurt. She was slow. She was a liability. She stays. 2 words. Clean, final. Lena didn't beg, didn't argue, just watched them disappear into the white with those pale, unblinking eyes. Maddox told himself it was the right call. Brutal math, cold necessity. He had no idea he'd just abandoned the most dangerous person on the mountain. Before we begin, if you're here for a story that'll keep you on the edge until the very last word, stay with me. Watch it all the way through. Drop a like if this hits you where it counts, and comment your city so I can see just how far this story travels. Now let's get into it. The wind didn't howl up here. It cut. Like frozen razors dragging across exposed skin, finding every gap in your gear, every weak point in your resolve. At 14,000 feet in the Zagan Mountains, the cold wasn't just uncomfortable, it was tactical. An enemy that never slept, never retreated, never missed. Staff Sergeant Cole Maddox had been in worse places. Fallujah during the surge, Helmand Province when the Taliban owned the night. A dozen other hellholes that had earned him 3 Purple Hearts and a reputation for bringing his people home. But he'd never been anywhere quite like this. "Visibility's down to 30 meters, Corporal Davies called over the radio, his voice distorted by static and wind. "Can't see shit, Sergeant." "Stay tight," Maddox replied, scanning the white void ahead. "Single file, 5-meter intervals, check your corners." It was almost laughable. Check your corners when you couldn't see your own boots. The blizzard had rolled in 40 minutes ago, transforming what had been a difficult tactical situation into something approaching suicide. They were supposed to be halfway to the extraction point by now. Instead, they were crawling across an exposed ridgeline, every step a negotiation with gravity and common sense. 7 people. That's all that remained of what had been a 12-person reconnaissance unit. 5 days ago, they'd inserted via high-altitude drop into territory that technically didn't exist, chasing intel about a weapons cache that officially wasn't there. The kind of mission that never made it into reports. The kind where if you died, your family got a closed casket and a story about training accidents. Maddox glanced back at his team. Davies on point, solid, reliable, 26 years old and already thinking about re-enlisting. Behind him, Martinez, their medic, carrying 60 pounds of gear and somehow still moving like she had energy to spare. Then Kowalski, Park, and Chen, the latter nursing a shoulder wound from 2 days ago that was probably infected by now. And then there was Voss. Lena Voss walked at the rear of the formation, exactly where Maddox had put her. Not because she was slow, though her limp suggested otherwise, but because he still wasn't sure what to make of her. She joined the team 3 months ago. Transfer from some unit whose name was redacted even in classified files. No combat record he could access, no references. Just a folder that said Specialist Designated Marksman and a security clearance that apparently trumped his own. In 3 months, she'd said maybe 300 words total. Didn't joke, didn't complain, didn't integrate. Just showed up, did her job with mechanical precision, and vanished into whatever private space she occupied when the work was done. The others didn't trust her. Maddox couldn't blame them. "Movement," Davies said suddenly. 2 o'clock. Maybe. Everyone froze. Maddox brought his rifle up, peering through the scope at nothing but white static. "Talk to me, Davies." "Thought I saw..." Davies paused. "Negative, just the snow playing tricks. Stay sharp." They moved forward. 1 step. Another. The ridge narrowed here. Rock face on the left. A drop on the right that disappeared into oblivion. Wind hammered them from the side, strong enough that Park stumbled, catching himself with a grunt. "This is insane," Martinez muttered over the radio. "We should rope up." "No time," Maddox said. "Extraction window closes in 90 minutes. We're not going to..." The first shot came from nowhere. One moment Davies was walking. The next he was falling, head snapping back, body crumpling like someone had cut his strings. No muzzle flash. No sound beyond the wind. Just sudden, absolute death. "Contact!" Maddox roared, but his voice was swallowed by the storm. The second shot hit Martinez in the chest. Her body armor caught it, but the impact drove her backward, over the edge. She screamed once, sharp, desperate, then nothing. Chaos. Park was firing blind into the white. Chen dropped to one knee, scanning for targets that weren't there. Kowalski was yelling something, but the words were lost. Maddox's training kicked in. "Cover! Find cover!" But there was no cover, just open ridge and killing wind and an enemy they couldn't see. Another shot. Park's leg exploded in red mist. He went down hard, screaming. "Where the fuck are they?" Kowalski shouted. Maddox didn't know. The shots were coming from multiple angles, impossible angles. Whoever was out there had the high ground, the weather, and the advantage of knowing exactly where they'd be. This wasn't random. This was an ambush. A carefully planned fucking ambush. Chen went next. Clean headshot. He was dead before he hit the ground. 3 people left. Maddox, Kowalski, and Voss. "Move!" Maddox grabbed Park, still alive, still screaming, and dragged him toward a cluster of rocks barely visible through the snow. Kowalski followed, laying down suppressive fire that did absolutely nothing. They huddled behind the rocks. Park was going into shock, blood pumping from his leg in rhythm with his heartbeat. Too much blood. Way too much. "Tourniquet," Maddox snapped. Kowalski was already on it, hands shaking as he worked the strap tight above the wound. Park's screams turned to whimpers, then to nothing. His eyes rolled back. "Stay with me," Kowalski said. "Stay with me, buddy." Maddox risked a glance over the rocks. Still nothing. Just white void and the certainty of bullets waiting in the dark. His radio crackled. Command trying to reach them. But the storm was eating the signal, turning words into static ghosts. "We need to move," Kowalski said. His face was pale, eyes too wide. "We're sitting ducks here." "Where?" Maddox scanned their position. They were pinned, exposed. The enemy had them in a kill box, and all they could do was wait for the next shot. Unless... Maddox looked at Park. The corporal's breathing was shallow, rapid, going into hypovolemic shock. Even if they got him to extraction, even if they got him to a hospital, the odds weren't good. The cold mathematics of combat were simple. 3 people, 1 badly wounded, unknown number of hostiles with superior position, 90 minutes to extraction in a blizzard that made movement nearly impossible. If they all tried to move together, they'd all die. If they left Park, maybe 2 would make it. If they left... Maddox's gaze shifted to Voss. She was 20 meters behind them, tucked into a shallow depression in the rock. Perfectly positioned, completely isolated. Her rifle was up, scanning sectors with mechanical precision, but Maddox noticed something. She was favoring her left leg. Blood on her boot. Not Park's blood. Hers. When had she been hit? "Voss," he called over the radio. "Status." A pause. Then her voice flat and empty of emotion. "Mobile." "Wounded?" "Mobile," she repeated. That told him everything. She was hurt. Bad enough to bleed, bad enough to slow her down. But she wasn't going to admit it because admission meant weakness, and weakness meant... Maddox made the calculation. Park was dying. That was a certainty. Voss was wounded. That was a problem. Kowalski was intact but barely holding it together. That was a risk. 3 people. 1 extraction window. Impossible terrain. Do the math. "Kowalski," Maddox said quietly. "Can you carry Park?" Kowalski looked at him. "What?" "Can you carry Park?" Understanding dawned in Kowalski's eyes, followed immediately by horror. "Sarge, we can't." "Answer the question." Maybe. For a little while. But not far. Not in this." Maddox nodded. The math was done. He keyed his radio. "Voss? Fall back to my position." No response. "Voss? Acknowledge." Still nothing. Maddox looked back at her position. She was still there, still scanning, but she hadn't moved. "God damn it, Voss. I heard you." Her voice came back. calm, measured. I'm not coming. That's not a request. I know. Maddox felt something cold settle in his gut, colder than the wind. You're wounded. You can't stay here. I can. You can't wait for me. Listen to me. The shots came from 3 positions, Voss interrupted. Her voice hadn't changed pitch or tempo. She might have been reading a weather report. Northwest ridge, approximately 400 meters. East face, maybe 550. And one close, very close, 200 meters almost directly above us. They're repositioning now, building a pattern. In 6 minutes, maybe 7, they'll have you boxed. No way out. Maddox froze. How do you... You need to move. Now. Take the south descent. It's exposed, but it's the only angle they can't cover simultaneously. You'll have maybe 90 seconds before they adjust. What about you? For the first time, there was a pause. When Voss spoke again, something in her voice had changed. Not emotion exactly. More like acknowledgement. I slow you down. I stay. The words hit Maddox like a physical blow. Because she was right. The math was brutal but clear. Voss was wounded. She'd slow them down, and if she slowed them down, they'd all die. But leaving someone behind... Sarge, Kowalski's voice was tight. We're not doing this. We're not leaving her. Maddox didn't answer. He was looking at Park, unconscious now, chest barely rising. At Kowalski, loyal and brave and already at his breaking point. At the white void around them that had swallowed 4 people in as many minutes. At Voss, alone in her depression of rock, rifle steady despite whatever wound was bleeding into her boot. The math was done. Voss, go, she said. And this time there was something final in her voice. Mission first. You know that. I know that. So go. Maddox closed his eyes. Opened them. Keyed his radio. Command, this is Sierra 6. We are down to 3 mobile. Taking casualties. Request immediate. Static ate the rest. He looked at Kowalski. Grab Park. We're moving. Sarge, now. Kowalski stared at him. In that moment, Maddox saw everything the younger man was feeling. The disbelief, the betrayal, the horror of understanding what they were about to do. But Kowalski was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. He grabbed Park, hauling the unconscious corporal onto his shoulders in a fireman's carry. His knees nearly buckled under the weight. South descent, Maddox said. Move fast. Don't stop. Don't look back. They moved. Maddox kept his rifle up, scanning the white nothing for threats he couldn't see. Behind him, Kowalski struggled with Park's weight, boots sliding on ice-slick rock, and behind them both, growing smaller with each step, Voss remained in her shallow depression. Watching them leave, Maddox forced himself not to look back, forced himself to focus on the mission, on survival, on the brutal calculus that said 2 lives saved was better than 3 lives lost. He'd made the right call. He had to have made the right call. The wind screamed louder, as if the mountain itself was judging him. Lena Voss watched them disappear into the storm. She counted to 90. 90 seconds to feel it, to acknowledge it, to let the betrayal, if that's what it was, exist in her chest like a sharp, cold thing. Then she shut it off. Emotion was a luxury. She'd learned that a long time ago, in places and situations she'd spent years trying to forget. Emotion made you slow, made you hesitate, made you dead. She had 90 seconds of emotion. Now it was time to work. Her leg hurt. That was inconvenient, but manageable. The bullet had gone through the meat of her calf, in and out, no bone strike. She'd packed it with quick clot from her kit and wrapped it tight. It would hold. For a while. Long enough. She shifted in her position, ignoring the fresh spike of pain, and assessed her situation. 1 rifle. Custom build, Remington 700 platform, .308 caliber, 47 rounds remaining. The scope had taken a hit during the ambush, lens cracked, reticle slightly misaligned. Anyone else would consider it useless. Lena knew exactly how it failed. Knew the angle of the crack, the degree of misalignment, the way the cold would affect the damaged internals. She could compensate. 1 sidearm, Glock 19, 17 rounds. Effective range maybe 50 meters in this weather, essentially useless for what she had in mind. 1 knife, standard issue K-bar, sharp enough. No radio. She'd left it behind deliberately. Radio signals could be tracked. And besides, there was no one to call. She studied the storm. Not with her eyes. Vision was almost worthless here. But with the accumulated knowledge of 100 similar situations. The way the wind moved, the density of the snowfall, the subtle shifts in air pressure that told her where the terrain changed, where the ridges were, where someone might position themselves for a kill shot. The enemy was good. She'd give them that. 3 firing positions perfectly coordinated. They'd waited until the team was maximally exposed, then struck with precision, military training, professional discipline. But they'd made a mistake. They'd let her live. Lena pressed herself flat against the rock and began to move. Not down, where Maddox and Kowalski had gone. Up. Into the storm, into the teeth of the wind, toward the high ground where she'd identified the first firing position. Every movement was calculated, every breath controlled. Pain was information, nothing more. Her leg reported damage, noted, filed, ignored. She'd crawled through worse, in Syria, in Yemen, in places that didn't have names on maps, where the dead stayed dead, and the only record of their passing was satellite footage that would be classified for 50 years. This was just another mountain, just another mission, just another day of being the person everyone underestimated until it was too late. She climbed for 20 minutes. The storm gave her cover, turned her into a ghost moving through white nothing. Her hands were numb, her face burned with cold. None of it mattered. What mattered was position, angle, the geometry of death. She found the first enemy position exactly where she'd calculated it would be. A natural outcropping of rock, perfect cover, perfect sightlines down to the ridge where her team had been, where 4 of her team had died. The sniper was gone, already repositioned, chasing Maddox and Kowalski down the mountain. But he'd left something behind. Shell casings. 3 of them. 7.62 NATO. Probably SVD or a similar platform. The casings were still warm, or at least not yet frozen to the rock. Lena studied their position. Read them like text. The shooter was right-handed, experienced. The spacing between casings indicated controlled fire, no panic, and he was confident enough to leave evidence because he assumed everyone who'd seen him shoot was dead or running. Almost everyone. She moved again. Higher. The second position was another 100 meters up, tucked into a crevice that required technical climbing to reach. She reached it in 12 minutes. This one was still occupied. Lena saw him before he saw her. A shape in the white, barely distinguishable from the rock. He was focused down the mountain, rifle trained on the path Maddox had taken. She could kill him from here, easy shot, maybe 30 meters. But she needed something more than a kill. She needed information. Lena moved like water, silent, inexorable. The storm masked the tiny sounds of her approach, the scrape of boot on stone, the soft exhale of breath. The enemy sniper was good. She could tell from his position, his discipline. He hadn't moved in minutes. Total focus down his scope. Good, but not good enough. She was 5 meters away when he sensed something, some animal instinct that made him start to turn. Lena covered the distance in 3 steps. Her knife found the gap between his body armor plates, slid in smooth, angled up toward the heart. He tried to scream, but she clamped her other hand over his mouth, driving him down into the snow. He thrashed, strong, well-trained. His hand went for a sidearm, but she pinned it with her knee, all her weight, limited as it was, focused on keeping him immobile. 10 seconds. That's how long it took for him to understand he was dying. His eyes found hers, wide, shocked, probably wondering who the hell she was, how she'd gotten so close, why he hadn't heard her coming. Lena watched him die, kept pressure on the knife until his struggles stopped, until the light went out of his eyes and his body went slack. Then she rolled off him and immediately began searching his gear. No identification, no patches. The rifle was an SVD-63, Russian manufacture but available on a dozen black markets. His radio was encrypted, but she pocketed it anyway. You never knew what might be useful. What she really wanted was his position data. And there, a small GPS unit still active. She studied the screen, saw what she needed to see. 7 enemy positions marked. 3 of them already grayed out, abandoned, repositioned. 4 still active, including the one she was currently occupying. They were executing a pursuit pattern. driving Maddox and Kowalski toward a kill zone 2 clicks down the mountain. A trap within a trap. Lena memorized the positions, calculated distances, angles, timing. Her mind processed the information with the cold efficiency of a computer running battlefield calculus. Then she looked at her own position, at the rifle she'd just acquired, at the storm that was, if anything, getting worse. She checked her watch. 73 minutes until extraction. Maddox and Kowalski would never make it. The math was clear. They were walking into an ambush they couldn't see, outnumbered by an enemy that owned the terrain. They'd left her behind to save themselves. It hadn't worked. But maybe, just maybe, she could. Lena chambered around in the SVD. The scope was clean, properly zeroed. She adjusted for the wind, for the cold, for the 1,000 tiny variables that turned shooting from a skill into an art. And then she began to hunt. Maddox and Kowalski were dying by degrees. Park had stopped breathing 20 minutes ago. Kowalski was still carrying him, couldn't seem to let go, couldn't seem to accept that the weight on his shoulders was just dead meat now. "Put him down," Maddox said for the 3rd time. He's gone. Put him down." Kowalski's face crumpled, but he lowered Park's body into the snow, gentle despite everything. Stood there for a moment, just staring. "We have to move," Maddox said. "We left her." Kowalski's voice was hollow. "We left Voss to die." "We don't." Kowalski looked at him, and Maddox saw something break behind the younger man's eyes. "Don't tell me it was the right call. Don't tell me it was necessary. We left her, and you know it was fucked up, and I know it was fucked up, and that's all there is to say about it." Maddox had no response to that. They moved on. The descent was killing them. Every step was a negotiation with ice and gravity. The wind came from different directions, unpredictable, strong enough to stagger them. And somewhere out there, the enemy was still hunting. Maddox felt it. That pressure on the back of his neck, the certainty of being watched. He'd felt it in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in every combat zone he'd ever operated in. Someone had them in their sights. "Contact front," Kowalski suddenly yelled. Maddox spun, rifle up. Nothing, just white void and wind. "Where?" "I saw..." Kowalski was breathing hard, eyes wild. "Movement! I swear I saw movement!" "Easy, stay focused." But Maddox had seen it too, or thought he had. Shapes in the storm, shadows that moved wrong. They were being herded. The realization hit him like cold water. Every step they took, they were being pushed, guided, driven towards something. "Stop," he said. Kowalski stopped. They stood in the white silence, listening. The wind howled. Snow hissed against their gear. And then, a sound, distant, almost lost in the storm. Not a gunshot. Something else. A crack, sharp and final. Then another. And another. "What the hell is that?" Kowalski whispered. Maddox didn't know. The sounds were coming from above them, behind them, from the direction they'd come. His radio crackled. Mostly static, but something underneath. A voice. "I've, repeat, Vip, ein, is, Tiv..." The signal cut out. Maddox and Kowalski looked at each other. "Did that say, Kowalski began. Another crack, closer this time. Definitely a rifle shot. Then silence. Long, stretching silence that felt heavier than the storm. "Who's shooting?" Kowalski asked. Maddox stared back into the white void, back toward where they'd left Lena Voss to die alone. And for the first time since he'd made his decision, he felt something cold and terrible settle in his gut. Not guilt, not regret. Fear. Because somewhere up in that storm, something had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. And Maddox had a terrible suspicion he knew who was pulling the trigger. "But them." Cliffhanger, sir. Behind them, invisible in the storm, Lena Voss adjusted her scope one more time. Her hands were steady despite the cold, despite the pain in her leg, despite everything. She'd already taken 4 shots, 4 bodies dropped in the white, 3 more positions to clear. And then, maybe, she'd save the people who'd left her to die. Or maybe she'd just finished the mission. Either way, the mountain was about to learn what everyone eventually learned about Lena Voss. Underestimating her was the last mistake you ever made. The first shot Lena took after acquiring the SVD wasn't her best work. Wind gusted hard at the wrong moment, pushed the bullet 6 inches left. Still center mass, still fatal, but sloppy by her standards. She adjusted, breathed, let muscle memory older than most of her conscious thoughts take over. The second shot was cleaner. Target 300 meters downslope, partially obscured by rock outcropping. Waiting in ambush position for Maddox and Kowalski to stumble into his kill zone. He had good discipline, hadn't moved in minutes, rifle steady despite the cold. Lena watched him through the scope, studied the tiny movements, the slight shift of weight, the way his breath condensed in the frigid air, visible for half a second before the wind tore it away. She knew the exact moment he'd exhale, knew when his body would be most stable. Squeezed the trigger between heartbeats. The SVD kicked. Through the scope, she saw the target's head snap back, saw him collapse into the snow like a puppet with cut strings. No drama, no last stand, just biology stopping. 2 down, 5 to go. Lena's leg was screaming now. Not the sharp pain of fresh injury, but the deep grinding ache that meant things were getting worse. The quick clot had slowed the bleeding, but not stopped it. She could feel blood squelching in her boot with each movement. 40 minutes, maybe less. That's how long before blood loss started affecting her fine motor control. Started making the difference between a clean shot and a miss. She had to work faster. The GPS unit showed the remaining enemy positions converging. They'd heard the shots, impossible not to in the eerie acoustic deadness of the storm. They were adapting, tightening the net, smart, professional, exactly what she'd do. Lena shifted position, ignoring the fresh spike of agony from her leg. She needed elevation, needed to get above the next cluster of targets before they relocated. The climb took 8 minutes that felt like hours. Rock face slick with ice, handholds that crumbled under her grip. Every movement a controlled fall upward. Her damaged leg gave out twice. Both times she caught herself, redistributed weight, kept moving, stopped thinking of her body as something that could fail. Just a machine, a tool, functional until it wasn't. She reached a ledge barely wide enough to lie prone. Perfect. Below, maybe 400 meters and slightly west, she spotted movement. 2 targets. They'd paired up. Good tactics. Harder to kill 2 than 1, but not impossible. Lena settled into position. The SVD's scope was cleaner than her own damaged optic, but she missed the familiar weight of her rifle. Missed knowing every quirk, every tendency. This weapon was good but foreign. She'd make it work. First target was scanning upslope with binoculars. Looking for her, probably. Trying to figure out where the shots were coming from. Second target had his rifle up, providing overwatch. They were 40 meters apart. Standard tactical spacing, which meant after the first shot she'd have maybe 2 seconds before the second target located her muzzle signature and returned fire. 2 seconds. 1 follow-up shot. Doable. Lena calculated wind speed from the way snow crystals moved across her field of view, adjusted for the downward angle, for the cold affecting powder burn rate, for the unfamiliar trigger pull weight. She exhaled slowly, let her heart rate drop. Found that quiet space between thoughts where training became instinct. Fired. The first target dropped. She was already swinging the rifle, already finding the second man who was spinning toward her position, rifle coming up fast. Fast, but not fast enough. Her second shot hit him in the throat. He went down gurgling. 3 and 4. Lena didn't wait to confirm kills, didn't have time. She was already moving, already relocating, because staying in one position after taking shots was suicide. Her leg buckled on the third step. She caught herself on an outcropping, felt the wound tear open wider. Hot blood now, pulsing with her heartbeat. Not good. She wrapped the wound tighter with the strip torn from her sleeve. It wouldn't hold long. Didn't need to. Just needed to hold long enough. Everything just needed to hold long enough. The radio she'd taken from the first kill crackled to life. A voice speaking Russian, tense and clipped. Bazovaya pozicja doложите. Kto stреляет? Base position. Report. Who's shooting? Lena understood Russian, understood what the voice meant. The enemy had lost contact with 4 positions. They were confused, scrambling. The careful choreography of their ambush was falling apart. Good. Confusion was a weapon. Fear was a weapon. She keyed the radio and spoke in perfect accent-free Russian. Все мертвы. Everyone's dead. Then she turned the radio off and kept moving. 2 kilometers downslope, Maddox heard the shots and felt his world tilt sideways. 5 cracks, evenly spaced, professional cadence, not the panicked spray of someone fighting for their life. Controlled, precise, execution shots. That's not them, Kowalski said, voice tight. That can't be them shooting at us. The angle's wrong. Maddox knew. The shots were coming from above, from the direction they'd fled, from where they'd left. No. Impossible. Voss was wounded. Alone. She'd have hunkered down, tried to survive until the storm passed. She wouldn't have... Another shot. This one closer. Different acoustic signature. Different rifle. And then the radio crackled. The voice that came through was distorted by static and wind, barely intelligible. But Maddox caught 2 words clearly. Viper 9. The world stopped. Kowalski was staring at him. Did that just say, move, Maddox snapped. Now, fast. Sarge, what? Move! They ran, or tried to. Running at 14,000 feet in a blizzard with 40 pounds of gear was less running and more controlled falling forward. But fear gave them speed. Terror gave them energy they didn't have. Because Viper 9 wasn't supposed to exist. Viper 9 was a ghost story. A legend whispered about in the dark corners of Spec Ops. A sniper who'd operated in Syria, Yemen, half a dozen other hellholes during the worst years of the Forever Wars. Someone who took impossible shots in impossible conditions and walked away leaving nothing but bodies. No one knew if Viper 9 was real. No one knew if it was one person or a dozen different operators using the same call sign. No one knew anything except the stories. 300 kills, some said. Maybe more. Maybe double that. Numbers so high they couldn't be real. Couldn't be one person. And Viper 9 had supposedly died. 5 years ago. Some clusterfuck in eastern Ukraine. Details were classified beyond classified. But the call sign had gone dark, silent, dead. Until now. Maddox's mind was racing. Voss. Quiet, detached Voss who never spoke, never engaged, never showed anything resembling personality. It couldn't be. It was impossible. But the math was adding up in ways that made his blood run cold. Sarge! Kowalski grabbed his arm, yanked him down behind a boulder. Maddox hit the ground hard. What? Look! Ahead of them, maybe 60 meters, a shape in the snow. Human. Not moving. They waited. Watched. The shape didn't move. Maddox low-crawled forward, rifle up, finger on the trigger. Got within 10 meters before he could see clearly. Enemy combatant, dead. Single shot to the head. Blood frozen in a corona around the entry wound. He checked the body. Russian gear. No ID. Professional loadout. And the shot had come from above. From behind them. Someone's clearing our path, Kowalski whispered. Maddox didn't answer. He was looking at the wound, at the angle. Working backward, calculating where the shooter had been. Impossible range, impossible conditions, impossible shot. Unless. We need to keep moving, he said. They moved. Every 100 meters they found another body, each one killed with clinical precision. Each one positioned exactly where they would have ambushed Maddox and Kowalski. Someone was hunting the hunters. Someone was saving them. And Maddox was starting to understand who. Lena's world had narrowed to a tunnel, pain, cold, the scope's view. Nothing else existed. Nothing else mattered. Target 5 was smart. He'd gone to ground after hearing the radio message, found a position that was almost impossible to acquire. Almost. Lena spotted him by the reflection of his scope lens. Tiny glint of light that shouldn't have been there. Most people would have missed it. Most people weren't Lena Voss. She adjusted for a shot she'd only attempted twice before in her life. Extreme angle, wind gusting hard, target partially concealed behind rock, 630 meters. She had to thread the bullet through a gap barely 8 inches wide. Her hands were shaking now, not from nerves, from cold. from blood loss, from her body starting to shut down in earnest. She took 3 slow breaths, let the shaking settle into a rhythm, timed her shot for the valley between tremors. Fired. Through the scope, she saw the target jerk, saw him try to move, saw him slump, hit, but not clean. He was still alive. Lena worked the bolt, chambered another round, found him again in the scope. He was trying to crawl, trying to get to cover, probably calling for help on his radio. She led him, adjusted for his movement, second shot, center mass. He stopped moving, 5 down, 2 to go. Lena tried to stand and her leg gave out completely. She went down hard, head cracking against rock. Vision blurred, swam back into focus. The world was tilting, spinning slightly. Blood loss. Shock. Her body giving up. She checked her watch, had to squint to make the numbers resolve. 41 minutes to extraction. Maddox and Kowalski were still 2 clicks from the LZ. The last 2 enemy positions were between them and safety. She could stop. She'd done enough. Killed 5 trained operators in a blizzard with a wound that should have killed her already. That was enough. More than enough. She could hunker down, survive, wait for the storm to pass. Let Maddox and Kowalski handle their own problems. They'd left her, made the calculation, decided she was expendable. Fair enough. Cold math. She understood it. Might have made the same call, but understanding and accepting weren't the same thing. Lena pulled herself upright. Her leg was useless now. She'd have to drag herself, crawl. 2 more targets, 2 more shots. Then she could stop. Then she could let go. The next position took her 23 minutes to reach. 23 minutes of pulling herself across frozen rock, leaving a blood trail a blind man could follow. 23 minutes of her body screaming at her to stop, to rest, to surrender. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because somewhere in her mind, buried under years of training and trauma and carefully constructed emotional distance, there was still something that gave a damn. Still something that said, they're your team, flawed decision or not. They're your team. Still something that refused to let them die when she could prevent it. Target 6 was exactly where the GPS said he'd be. Ridge position, good cover, excellent sight lines to the extraction zone below. He was good. Hadn't panicked, hadn't broken discipline, just settled into position and waited like a professional. Lena respected that. She killed him anyway. 1 shot, clean. He never saw it coming. 6, 1 left. She tried to move and couldn't. Her body had finally hit its limit. Leg wouldn't respond. Arms felt like lead. Even breathing was becoming difficult. The last position was 300 meters west. Might as well have been 300 miles. She lay in the snow and did the math. She was done. Finished. She'd pushed as far as biology allowed and then some. The last target would have to be someone else's problem. Maddox and Kowalski would have to deal with 1 sniper. Better odds than 7. She'd given them that much. It would have to be enough. Lena closed her eyes. Let the cold start to take her. It wasn't so bad. Kind of peaceful, actually. The pain was fading. Everything was fading. Easier than she'd thought it would be. Dying. Then she heard it. Voices. Distant. Distorted by wind, but definitely voices. Her eyes snapped open. She fumbled for the radio she'd taken. Turned it on. Extraction in 30. Repeat. Helo inbound, 30 minutes. Charlie LZ. Acknowledge. Maddox's voice came back. Roger. En route to Charlie LZ. 28 minutes out. 28 minutes. Lena did the math. At their current pace, tired and battered, they'd arrive at the extraction zone in 28 minutes. The last sniper had a clean shot on that LZ. Would wait for the helicopter. For the moment when they were exposed, climbing aboard. 1 shot, maybe 2. And Maddox and Kowalski would die bleeding out on the skids while the helo pulled up and away. 28 minutes. Lena looked at her useless leg, at the blood pooling beneath her, at the distance she'd have to cover. Impossible. Completely impossible. She started crawling. Maddox saw the extraction zone and felt hope for the first time in hours. A flat area, relatively clear of rocks. Big enough for a Black Hawk to set down for maybe 60 seconds. Not ideal, but doable. They were going to make it. I see it, Kowalski said. He was gasping, nearly done. They both were. But they were close. So close. 12 minutes, Maddox checked his watch. Wait, helo's inbound. We're going to make it. Kowalski nodded, started to say something. The shot came from the west, missed Kowalski's head by inches, cracked into the rock behind them. They dove for cover, training overriding exhaustion. Sniper, West Ridge! Another shot, this one closer. Whoever was shooting knew where they'd gone to ground, was adjusting. We're pinned, Kowalski said. His voice had gone flat, defeated. We're so close and we're fucking pinned. Maddox scanned the ridge but couldn't see the shooter. Professional hide. Perfect position. And they were stuck. Couldn't advance to the LZ. Couldn't retreat. Could only wait while the sniper worked the problem. Adjusted his angles. Waited for them to make a mistake. 10 minutes until extraction. We have to move, Maddox said. He'll kill us. He'll kill us if we stay. Kowalski looked at him. Rush him? You have a better idea? They didn't. They both knew it. This was the end, had to be. They'd run out of options, out of luck, out of time. Maddox gripped his rifle. On 3. We break left. Make for that boulder cluster. Maybe we can... Another shot. But this one came from behind them. Different sound, different rifle. And on the west ridge, barely visible through the snow, Maddox saw something impossible. The enemy sniper jerked, slumped, slid out of his position and tumbled down the slope. Dead. Silence. Long and stretching and complete except for the wind. Kowalski and Maddox looked at each other. What the hell just... The radio crackled. A voice. Barely audible. Weak, but unmistakable. Path is clear, get to the LZ. Helo's 2 minutes out. Lena Voss. Maddox keyed his radio with shaking hands. Voss, where are you? Static. Voss, Lena, where are you? More static. Then, so faint he almost missed it. Doesn't matter, go. We're coming back for you. No. The word was final. Absolute. Mission first, you taught me that. Go. Lena. The radio went dead. Above them, they heard it, the distinctive whump-whump of rotors cutting through thin air, the Black Hawk emerging from the storm like a vision. Sarge, Kowalski said, what do we... Maddox was already moving, not toward the helicopter, back, up the slope, toward where he thought the final shot had come from. Sarge! Get on the bird, Maddox yelled back. Get on and tell them to wait. How long? As long as it takes. He climbed. His legs were dead, his lungs burning. None of it mattered. He'd left her once. Not again. The blood trail was easy to follow. Too easy. Too much blood. She'd dragged herself across 300 meters of frozen hell, leaving a red streak in the snow that looked black in the dim light. He found her rifle first. Discarded. Empty. Then her sidearm. Also empty. Then her. She was propped against a rock, barely conscious. The rifle she'd taken from the enemy sniper was across her lap. 7 shell casings arranged in a neat line beside her. 7 shots, 7 kills. Her leg was a ruin, tourniquet long since soaked through, blood everywhere. But she was alive. Told you to go, she said. Her voice was thready, weak. Yeah, well, I'm not good at following orders. Noticed. Maddox dropped beside her, started checking the wound. It was bad. Worse than bad. She should have been dead an hour ago. How are you even conscious? Practice. She coughed, spat blood. Done worse. Where? She looked at him. Even now, even dying, her eyes were calm, distant, like she was watching from somewhere far away. Places you never heard of, doing things you'd never believe. Viper 9. She didn't confirm, didn't deny, just watched him with those pale eyes. Why didn't you tell us? Maddox asked. Why keep it secret? Because I'm supposed to be dead. Her breathing was getting shallower. Officially, permanently, and I like it that way. Why? Because Viper 9 got sent places, did things, the kind of things you don't come back from. Not really, not whole. She paused. Lena Voss is quieter, simpler, doesn't have to remember as much. Maddox understood. Didn't agree, but understood. Can you walk? No? Can you be carried? Probably not far enough. He pulled her arm over his shoulder anyway, started to lift. She was lighter than he expected. Too light. Dehydration, blood loss, shock. You left me, she said quietly. I know. Made sense, the math. I know. Would do it again, same situation. I wouldn't, Maddox said, and meant it. Never again. She didn't answer. Might not have heard. Was fading. He half carried, half dragged her toward the LZ. Every step was agony, for both of them. The Black Hawk was still there, rotors spinning, pilot probably screaming into his radio about the clock. Kowalski saw them coming, jumped down to help. Together they got Lena to the bird, loaded her in. The medic aboard took one look at her and started working with the desperate efficiency of someone who knew they were fighting a losing battle. Go, Maddox yelled to the pilot. Now! The bird lifted. The mountain dropped away. And for the first time in hours, Maddox let himself breathe. He looked at Lena. She was unconscious now, probably better that way. The medic was doing something with an IV, with pressure bandages, with equipment Maddox didn't recognize. Is she going to make it? He asked. The medic didn't look up. Ask me in an hour. Maddox sat back, closed his eyes. Behind them, the storm still raged, the mountain still killed, the bodies still lay where they'd fallen. But they were out. They'd made it. Because of her. The woman they'd left behind had saved them all. And Maddox knew with absolute certainty that he'd spend the rest of his life trying to figure out how to make that right. The hour turned into 3. Lena flatlined twice in the medical bay at Forward Operating Base Kestrel. Both times the medics shocked her back. Both times she returned from wherever she'd gone with the same flat, empty expression, like death was just another mission she hadn't completed yet. Maddox watched through the observation window. Couldn't look away. Couldn't make himself leave. Kowalski stood beside him, silent. They'd been debriefed separately. Quick, efficient. The kind of debrief that happened when command didn't want details. Just confirmation that the mission parameters had been met. Had they secured the target intel? No. The ambush had scattered everything. Had they neutralized the enemy presence? Unclear. Some dead, some scattered. No way to confirm. Had they brought everyone home? Maddox had looked the debriefer in the eye and said yes. Technically, true. Everyone still breathing had made it back. The 4 body bags in the cargo hold didn't count as people anymore. Just paperwork. She's stable, a voice said behind them. They turned. The surgeon, Captain Reyes, her name tape read, looked exhausted. Blood on her scrubs. 3 hours of fighting to keep one broken soldier alive. Stable, Maddox repeated. That means she'll make it? It means she's not dying right this second. Beyond that? Reyes shrugged. She lost enough blood to kill most people twice over. The hypothermia should have shut down her organs. The wound was infected, badly, and she's got old scars on top of scars. Her body's been through hell long before today. But she'll live. Reyes studied him. You want the medical answer or the real one? Real. Medically, she should be dead. The fact that she's not is either a miracle or proof that some people are just too stubborn to die. Reyes paused. My money's on stubborn. She walked away, leaving Maddox and Kowalski alone with their thoughts. We need to tell them, Kowalski said quietly. Tell them what? What she did. The shots. He stopped, started again. She saved us. Command needs to know. Command doesn't want to know, Maddox said. You heard the debrief. They asked about mission completion, about casualties. They didn't ask about who killed 7 enemy combatants in a blizzard with a sucking leg wound. But nothing. You want to put Viper 9 in a report? You want to explain how a ghost that's been officially dead for 5 years just saved our asses? Maddox turned to face him. She kept it quiet for a reason. We're going to respect that. Kowalski looked like he wanted to argue, wanted to push, but he just nodded. They stood there in silence, watching through the window as Lena's chest rose and fell with mechanical precision. 3 days later, she woke up. The first thing Lena saw was white ceiling tiles. Institutional, generic, the kind that said military medical facility without needing a sign. The second thing was pain. Dull, pervasive, radiating from her leg up through her entire body. The good kind of pain. The kind that meant she was alive. The third thing was Maddox, sitting in a chair by her bed, reading a report. "Didn't know you could read," she said. Her voice came out raw. Throat damage from the breathing tube they'd probably had down it. Maddox looked up. Something passed across his face. Relief, maybe. Or surprise. Hard to tell. "You're awake." "Apparently." "How do you feel?" "Like I got shot and then dragged myself across a mountain." "That's accurate." Silence. Awkward. Neither of them good at this. Lena tried to sit up. Her body informed her that was a terrible idea. She ignored it and sat up anyway. Pain spiked. Faded to background noise. "You should rest," Maddox said. "I've rested 3 days. 2.5. Felt longer." She looked down at her leg, wrapped in enough bandages to mummify a pharaoh. "Prognosis?" "You'll walk, eventually. Might have a limp." "I already had a limp." That was news to Maddox. His expression said so clearly. Lena didn't elaborate, just sat there, taking inventory of her body, cataloging damage, calculating recovery time. "We didn't tell them," Maddox said suddenly. "Tell them what?" "About Viper 9, about the shots, about He gestured vaguely. "Any of it. Official report says unknown hostile engagement eliminated enemy presence. No details." Lena studied him. "Why?" "Because you kept it quiet for a reason. Figured we owed you that much." "You don't owe me anything." "The hell I don't." Maddox's voice went hard. "You saved our lives. After we left you to die. That's a debt. You made a tactical decision. I made a shit decision." "Same thing sometimes." Maddox shook his head. "I've been doing this 17 years. 17 years and I've never left someone behind. Never. And the first time I do, it's..." He stopped. "You could have let us die. Would have been justified. We abandoned you." "Mission first," Lena said. "Simple, factual. You taught me that. Everyone teaches that. It's the first rule." "There are rules above that one." "No, there aren't." She met his eyes. "In the field, mission success is the only thing that matters. Everything else is sentiment, and sentiment gets people killed. Is that what Viper 9 learned?" The name hung in the air between them. Lena didn't react, didn't confirm, didn't deny. "Viper 9 is dead," she said finally. "Is she?" "Officially, permanently. Buried in a file somewhere with a classification level that means no one who matters will ever read it." "What about unofficially?" Lena was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, older, tired. "Unofficially, Viper 9 did things that needed doing, in places that don't exist, against people who officially weren't there, and when the job was done, Viper 9 got to stop existing too." "By choice? Does it matter?" Maddox thought about that. "Yeah, it does." "Why?" "Because if it wasn't your choice, that's something different. That's..." He struggled for the word. "That's not retirement. That's exile." Lena smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Big words mean the same thing sometimes. Before Maddox could respond, the door opened. Kowalski walked in, stopped short when he saw Lena awake. "Oh, hey, you're..." He seemed genuinely flustered. "I can come back." "Stay," Lena said. Kowalski glanced at Maddox, who nodded. He came in, closing the door behind him. "How are you feeling?" "Fine." "You got shot." "I've been shot before." "Not like that, you haven't." Lena didn't argue, just watched him with those pale, unreadable eyes. Kowalski shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "Look, I just wanted to say, we fucked up, on the mountain. We shouldn't have left you, and I should have pushed back harder, and I didn't, and that's on me." "You followed orders," Lena said. "That's what you're supposed to do." "Not those orders. Any orders. That's the job. The job's supposed to have limits." "Does it?" Lena's voice was genuinely curious. Not challenging, just asking. "What are the limits? Where's the line? Because I've been doing this long enough to know the line moves, changes depending on context. On threat level, on mission parameters." "The line is, we don't leave our people," Kowalski said firmly. Even if leaving one person saves 3? Yes. That's inefficient. That's being human. Lena considered that. Maybe that's why I'm not good at teams. The honesty of it hit both men like a punch. No self-pity, no bitterness, just flat acknowledgement of a fact. Maddox cleared his throat. You saved us. However you feel about teams, you saved us. Mission required it. Bullshit, Kowalski said. The word came out harder than he probably intended. Mission required you survive, hide, wait for extraction. You didn't have to hunt down 7 hostiles with a blown leg and a damaged rifle. 6 hostiles, Lena corrected. 1 was already dead when I found his position. 6, 7, whatever. Point stands. Lena didn't respond. Just looked at them both with that distant expression that said she was already somewhere else. Somewhere neither of them could follow. The door opened again. This time it was Colonel Marcus Hale, base commander, flanked by 2 people in civilian clothes who had federal agent written all over them. Maddox and Kowalski snapped to attention. Lena just watched. At ease, Hale said. He looked at Maddox. Sergeant, Corporal, you're dismissed. Sir, with respect, that's not a request, Sergeant. Maddox hesitated, looked at Lena. She gave the smallest shake of her head. He left. Kowalski followed. The door closed. Hale pulled up a chair. The 2 civilians stayed standing, flanking the bed like guards. Specialist Voss, Hale said. How are you feeling? Fine, sir. Good. Because we have a problem. Lena waited. The operation in the Zagen range was supposed to be quiet, low profile, in and out, no trace. Hale's jaw tightened. Instead, we have 12 dead hostiles, 4 dead friendlies, and enough spent brass on that mountain to stock a firing range. Hostile action required response. Hostile action required extraction and evasion, not a one-woman war. Lena said nothing. One of the civilians stepped forward. Woman, mid-40s, gray suit, hard eyes. We've analyzed the ballistics. 7 kills, 7 different firing positions. Moving across terrain that should have been impossible with your injuries. Shot placement that suggests training well beyond standard military designation. I got lucky. Nobody gets that lucky. The woman pulled out a tablet, swiped through images. We've been tracking radio intercepts from the region, heard something interesting, a name, or rather, a call sign. She turned the tablet to show Lena, audio waveform timestamp, and a transcript in Russian. Everyone's dead. That's you speaking, isn't it? The woman asked. Perfect Russian, no accent, the kind of language skill that takes years to develop. Lena's expression didn't change. Here's what I think happened, the woman continued. I think Specialist Lena Voss isn't your real designation. I think you're something else. Someone with a very specific skill set, someone who was supposed to stay buried. I don't know what you mean. The hell you don't. The woman leaned closer. Viper 9, ring a bell. The room went very quiet. Lena held the woman's stare. Viper 9 is dead. Official records say so, but official records say a lot of things that aren't true. Then maybe you should trust official records. The woman smiled, no warmth in it. Problem is, we have 7 bodies on a mountain that tell a different story. We have shot patterns that match known Viper 9 operations from Syria, Yemen, and Ukraine. We have circumstantial evidence, Lena interrupted. An operational similarity that proves nothing. Lots of snipers train in similar methods. Not like this, they don't. Hale held up a hand. Enough. He looked at Lena. Here's the situation. That operation was a disaster. Command wants answers. They want to know how a simple recon turned into a bloodbath. They want to know who killed those hostiles and where they learned to shoot like that. And what do you want, sir? I want to know if I have a ghost operating under my command without authorization. You don't. You sure about that? Yes, sir. Viper 9 is dead. Has been for 5 years. I'm just a designated marksman who got lucky in a firefight. Hale studied her, long, measuring look. Finally, he nodded. Okay, that's the story we're going with. Lucky shots, adrenaline, survival instinct. He stood. But understand this, specialist. Lucky or not, you just made yourself very interesting to people who don't like interesting. My advice? Keep your head down. Stay quiet. And for the love of Christ, don't pull any more miracles." "Yes, sir." Hale left. The two civilians followed, but the woman paused at the door. "We'll be watching," she said. Then they were gone. Lena sat in the silence, felt the walls closing in, felt the familiar weight of too much attention. She'd been careful, so careful. 3 years of being nobody, of fading into the background, of letting Lena Voss be unremarkable enough that no one looked twice. And now, because she decided to save 2 people who'd left her to die, it was all unraveling. The door opened. Maddox slipped back in. "You were listening," Lena said. "Learned that trick from you. The way you're always in the background, hearing everything." "That's not going to help here." "What do you need?" Lena looked at him, really looked. "Why do you care?" "Because you saved my life, because I owe you, because—" Maddox paused. "Because you're on my team, and I don't leave my team behind, not twice." "They're going to dig," Lena said quietly. "Those people, the ones in suits, they're going to pull files, run analysis, look for patterns, and eventually they're going to find things that prove I'm not who I say I am. Then we make sure they don't find anything." "How?" "I have friends, people who owe me favors, people who can make files disappear. That's illegal. So is abandoning a soldier in hostile territory. I've already broken the important rules. Might as well break some paperwork ones too." Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. "You're going to get in trouble." "Wouldn't be the first time." Maddox pulled out his phone, started typing. "I'm putting in for immediate transfer. You and me. New unit. Fresh start. Somewhere far from here and far from anyone asking questions. They won't approve it." "They will. Because the alternative is me going to the press about how command left a wounded soldier behind in a blizzard. And trust me, they don't want that story out there." "That's blackmail." "That's negotiation." Maddox hit send. "Done. Transfer request submitted. Should hear back in 48 hours. And if they say no, then I make good on the threat." Lena was quiet, processing. "Why are you doing this?" "I told you, you're my—" "No. Really. Why?" Maddox sat back down, took a breath. 17 years ago, I was a private. Fresh meat. Got sent to Fallujah during the worst of it. My unit got pinned down in a building. Insurgents on 3 sides, RPGs, machine guns. The works. We were dead. Knew it, accepted it. He paused, remembering. Then someone started taking out the insurgents, one by one. Clean shots from somewhere we couldn't see. Cleared 3 positions in under 2 minutes. Gave us the opening we needed to extract. Who was it? Never found out. Never saw them. But later I heard stories about a sniper who operated alone, who showed up when things were worst, who saved people and then disappeared. Viper 9. Maybe. Probably. I don't know for sure, but I know someone saved my life that day. Someone who didn't have to. Someone who could have just let us die. He met her eyes. So if there's even a chance that you're connected to that, if there's any possibility that the person who saved me 17 years ago is somehow linked to the person who saved me 3 days ago, then yeah, I'm going to do everything in my power to protect you." Lena didn't know what to say to that. Didn't have words for the tangle of emotions trying to surface, so she just nodded. "Get some rest," Maddox said, standing. "We've got a long road ahead." He left. Lena lay back in the bed, stared at the ceiling tiles. Thought about Fallujah. About a younger version of herself, barely 23, taking shots from a bombed-out building while people died around her. Thought about how many lives she'd saved over the years, and how many she'd taken. Thought about whether the math would ever balance. Probably not. But for the first time in a long time, she thought, maybe it didn't have to. The transfer came through in 36 hours. Maddox had been right. Command didn't want questions, didn't want investigations, didn't want a media shitstorm about abandoned soldiers. So they approved the transfer, buried the paperwork under 3 layers of classification, and pretended the whole thing had never happened. Lena was cleared for light duty 2 weeks later. Still limping, still healing, but mobile enough. She found Maddox in the briefing room reviewing files for their new assignment. "We're going to Alaska," he said without looking up. "Remote outpost, training mission, Basically middle of nowhere. Sounds perfect. Thought you'd think so. He glanced at her. You good with this? Fresh start? New team? Do I have a choice? There's always a choice. Lena thought about that. About choices she'd made, about paths taken and burned behind her. Yeah, she said, I'm good with it. Good. Because we deploy in 72 hours. Who's on the team? You, me, Kowalski, and 4 others. All solid. All quiet. All people who know when not to ask questions. You told them about me. I told them you're the best shot I've ever seen and they should trust you with their lives. The rest is your business. Lena nodded. Okay. Okay. They stood in silence. 2 soldiers who'd been through hell and come out the other side. Different than before. Scarred, but alive. Thank you, Lena said quietly. Maddox looked at her. For what? Coming back, on the mountain. You didn't have to. Yeah, I did. The math said, fuck the math, Maddox said. Some things are more important than numbers. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to explain that math was all there was. That sentiment was weakness. That emotion got people killed. But she didn't. Because maybe, just maybe, he was right. 3 days later, they deployed to Alaska. 7 people on a transport that rattled and groaned through turbulence. Lena sat by the window, watching clouds rush past. Thought about mountains, about snow, about the person she'd been before the Zagan range. Viper 9 was still dead. Would stay dead. But Lena Voss, quiet, detached, unremarkable Lena Voss, was starting to wonder if maybe there was room for something else. Something like trust. Something like belonging. Something like a team. The transport hit another pocket of turbulence. Kowalski cursed. One of the new guys, Martinez, young and nervous, gripped his seat. Maddox caught her eye across the cabin, raised an eyebrow. You good? Lena nodded. Yeah, I'm good. And for the first time in 5 years, she meant it. Alaska was supposed to be quiet. That lasted exactly 11 days. The outpost sat 200 miles north of Anchorage, accessible only by helicopter or a road that disappeared under snow 6 months of the year. Perfect isolation. Perfect anonymity. Lena spent the first week relearning how to walk without favoring her wounded leg. Physical therapy in a makeshift gym that smelled like diesel and old sweat. Push through the pain, rebuild the muscle, restore the function. By day 8, she was running. Not fast. Not pretty. But moving. By day 10, she was back on the range. That's when things started to unravel. She'd gone out alone, early morning, before the rest of the team was awake. Just her and a rifle and a target at 800 meters. Normal training distance. Nothing exceptional. Except she put 10 rounds through a grouping the size of a quarter in wind that would have made most shooters pack up and quit. She was cleaning the rifle when Maddox found her. Didn't know we had range time scheduled, he said. We don't. I was just, She paused. Checking 0. Uh-huh. Maddox walked to the spotting scope, looked downrange at the target, looked back at her. That's some 0. Wind was favorable. Wind's never favorable up here. Lena didn't argue, just kept cleaning the rifle with methodical precision. Maddox sat down on the bench beside her. You know they're still watching. Who? The people in suits. The ones asking questions. They've got satellite time allocated to this area. I checked the logs. Why would they waste resources on me? Because 7 bodies on a mountain is expensive. Because radio intercepts mentioning dead call signs make people nervous. Because... He stopped. Because you're good enough to be a problem if you wanted to be. I don't want to be. I know, but they don't know that. Lena set down the cleaning rod. What do you want me to do? I want you to be ready. Whatever's coming, it's not going to be quiet. He was right. The summons came on day 12. A helicopter, unscheduled, civilian markings but military flight pattern. It landed in a whiteout of rotor wash and frozen precipitation. 2 people got out. The woman in the gray suit from before, and someone new, a man, late 50s, weathered face, eyes that had seen things and decided to keep seeing them anyway. Maddox met them at the landing pad. Lena watched from the window of the operations building. The conversation was brief. Maddox's body language said he was arguing. The woman's posture said she didn't care. The older man just stood there, solid as a mountain. 5 minutes later, Maddox walked back. His expression was carefully neutral. Too neutral. "They want to talk to you," he said. "About?" "They didn't say, but it's not a request." Lena nodded. She'd known this was coming, had felt it building like pressure before a storm. She walked to the landing pad. The woman and the man were waiting inside the operations building now, out of the wind. Up close, the man looked familiar. Something about his eyes, the way he carried himself. "Specialist Voss," the woman said. "This is Colonel Francis Garrett, retired. He wanted to meet you." Garrett extended a hand. Lena shook it. His grip was firm, measured. The handshake of someone who'd spent decades reading people through physical contact. "You look good for someone who should be dead," Garrett said. "Thank you." "That wasn't a compliment. That was an observation." He gestured to a table. "Sit. We need to talk." Lena sat. The woman, she still hadn't given her name, sat across from her. Garrett remained standing. "Let me save us all some time," Garrett said. "I know who you are. I know what you were. I know what you did in Syria, in Yemen, in half a dozen other places that don't exist on maps." Lena kept her expression neutral, said nothing. "I know because I was your commanding officer, 6 years ago, before everything went to shit in Donetsk." The name hit Lena like a physical blow. Donetsk. The operation that had ended Viper 9. The mission that had... "You remember," Garrett said, reading her face. "Good. Means your memory's intact." Sir, with respect, I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. And we both know lying about it is pointless." Garrett pulled out a chair, sat down heavily. "Here's what happened. 6 years ago, I sent you into eastern Ukraine. Target was a high-value arms dealer with ties to 3 different terrorist organizations. Clean operation. In and out. No witnesses." He paused. "Except there were witnesses, civilians. A family in the wrong place at the wrong time. You had the shot. Had multiple shots. Could have eliminated them. Made the problem disappear." Lena's hands tightened on the edge of the table. She remembered. The family. Mother, father, 2 kids. They'd seen her position, could identify her, could compromise the entire operation. The rules were clear. No witnesses, no exceptions. "You let them go," Garrett continued. "Called in an abort. Said the mission was compromised. Recommended immediate extraction. The mission was secondary to protecting the secrecy of the program. You knew that. You'd been told that. Repeatedly." Garrett's voice was hard. "But you decided 4 civilians were worth more than operational security, worth more than your career, worth more than Viper 9. The woman spoke up. The family talked, gave descriptions, identifiers. Within 48 hours, 3 foreign intelligence services had pieced together that the United States had an active sniper program operating in denied territory. "The fallout was catastrophic," Garrett said. "Diplomatic shitstorm, congressional inquiries, 2 years of cleanup. And Viper 9, the program I'd built over a decade, got burned to the ground." Lena met his eyes. "I made a choice. A choice that cost 32 operators their covers. A choice that ended careers, destroyed lives. I wasn't going to kill children. You were going to follow orders. Not those orders." The room went silent. The only sound was wind rattling the windows. Garrett leaned back in his chair. "You know what the worst part was? I understood. On some level, I got it. You drew a line, said this far and no further. I respected that, even as it was destroying everything I'd built." "Then why are you here?" "Because the people who didn't understand, the ones who wanted you court-martialed, dishonorably discharged, maybe worse, they never forgot. And when reports started filtering in about a sniper in the Zagan Mountains performing kills consistent with Viper 9 methodology, they started asking questions again." The woman pulled out a tablet, brought up files, photos, ballistic analysis. "We've compared the shot patterns from Zagan to known Viper 9 operations. Statistical match is 94%. We've analyzed your service record, what little exists of Lena Voss before 3 years ago, shell identity, constructed backstory. Good work, but not perfect." "So what do you want?" Lena asked. "We want you to come back," Garrett said. Lena stared at him. What? The world's gotten worse since you left, more complex, more dangerous. We need people who can operate in gray zones, who can make impossible shots in impossible conditions, who can kill on command, Lena finished, who can protect American interests in places we can't officially acknowledge. No, you haven't heard the offer. I don't need to. The answer's no. The woman leaned forward. You don't have a choice. Your current identity is compromised. We can make it disappear. We can erase Lena Voss. Put you somewhere safe, somewhere no one will ask questions. Or we let certain information become public, service record, operations history, the real story of what happened in Donetsk. I'm sure the families of those 32 operators would love to know who really burned their loved ones. It was a threat, clean, efficient, effective. Lena looked at Garrett. You'd do that? I'd prefer not to, but I will if I have to. Why? Why do you care so much about getting me back? Garrett was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice had changed, softer, almost sad. Because you were the best I ever trained. Because even after everything, after Donetsk, after the fallout, after losing everything, I never thought you made the wrong call in that moment. You chose humanity over orders. That's rare, valuable. And you want to use it. I want to harness it, put it to work protecting people who can't protect themselves. There are operations happening right now, hostage situations, terrorist cells, threats that would terrify most people, where someone with your skills could save lives. By taking lives. Yes, that's the job. That's always been the job. Lena stood. I'm done with that job. Then what are you going to do? The woman asked. Play soldier in Alaska? Pretend you're normal? You saw what happened in Zagan. The second things got real. You reverted. Became what you were trained to be. You can't escape that. Watch me. Lena walked to the door. Garrett's voice stopped her. They'll come for you eventually. The people asking questions. The intelligence services who want to know where Viper 9 went. You can't hide forever. I can try. She left. Outside, the cold hit her like a wall. She walked back to the barracks, mind racing. Maddox was waiting. What did they want? Me. Back in the program I left. What did you tell them? No. And? And they threatened to burn my cover if I don't cooperate. Maddox cursed. Quietly. Viciously. How long do we have? I don't know. Days, maybe hours. Okay. Ooh, Maddox was thinking. Planning. We can move you. Get you somewhere they can't reach. I know people. No. Lena, no more running. No more hiding. I'm tired of it. So what's the play? Lena looked at him, really looked, saw something she'd missed before. Trust. Unconditional. Absolute. When had that happened? When had she stopped being alone? I need you to trust me, she said. I do. Even if I do something that seems crazy? Especially then. Lena nodded, made her decision. She walked back to the operations building. Garrett and the woman were still there, preparing to leave. I'll do it, Lena said. They turned. Do what? Garrett asked. Come back. One operation, one mission. I pick the parameters, I pick the team, I control the execution. That's not how this works. That's how it works if you want me. Lena's voice was ice. Otherwise, burn my cover, expose me, see what happens. But you won't get what you really want, which is Viper 9 operational again. Garrett studied her. What's the catch? After the mission, I'm done. Officially, permanently, full discharge, clean record, no more questions, no more surveillance. I disappear for real and you let me. And if the mission fails, it won't. Confident. Experienced. Garrett and the woman exchanged looks. Some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Garrett nodded. Okay, one mission, your terms. But I'm coming with you, as observer. Why? Because I trained you. Because I want to see what 6 years away did to your edge. And because if you're walking back into this world, someone needs to make sure you walk back out. Lena considered. Fine, but Maddox comes too, and Kowalski. This isn't a team. Those are my terms. Accept them, or I walk. Another pause. Then Garrett smiled. Actually smiled, like he was pleased. "You've gotten harder," he said. "I've gotten smarter. Maybe both." He extended his hand again. "Deal. One mission. Your team, your control. Then you're done." Lena shook his hand, felt the weight of the commitment. The finality. "When?" she asked. 72 hours. Briefing happens in D.C. Target is time sensitive. What's the target? Hostage situation. American contractor held in Somalia. 3 previous rescue attempts failed. He's going to be executed in 96 hours if we don't move. Why me? Why not send a SEAL team? Because the compound is in the middle of a city, surrounded by civilians. We need surgical. We need precise. We need someone who can take a shot from 1,200 meters in urban terrain without collateral damage. That's not a rescue operation. That's an assassination. It's both. You take the shot, kill the guard, create the opening, ground team extracts the hostage. Lena thought about it, saw the angles, the problems, the 1,000 ways it could go wrong. I'll need access to satellite imagery, building schematics, guard rotation schedules, wind data for the region, terrain maps, everything. You'll have it. And I want final veto on the shot. If the parameters aren't right, if there's too much risk to civilians, I don't take it. Garrett hesitated. Command won't like that. Command isn't pulling the trigger. I am. Those are the terms. Another pause, then a nod. Agreed. The woman looked unhappy but said nothing. 72 hours, Garrett repeated. He headed for the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're back, even if it's just for one mission. Don't be glad yet. You haven't seen if I can still shoot. Oh, I've seen the targets from this morning's range session. You can still shoot just fine. He left. Lena stood alone in the operations building, felt the familiar weight settling over her, the weight of decisions, of responsibility, of being the person who killed so others could live. She thought she was done with this. Turned out you never were. Not really. The skills stayed, the training stayed, the part of you that could look through a scope and end a life without hesitation, that stayed most of all. Maddox came in. I heard, he said. You were listening. Told you I learned that from you. Despite everything, Lena almost smiled. I need you to do something for me. Name it. If this goes bad, if something happens and I don't make it back, I need you to make sure they keep their word, that they leave my name out of it, that Lena Voss gets to stay buried. Nothing's going to happen. But if it does, I'll handle it. Maddox met her eyes. But you're coming back, you understand? We're all coming back. You don't know that. Yeah, I do, because you don't fail. It's not in your wiring. Everyone fails eventually. Not you, not when it counts. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it just felt like more weight, more expectation. But Lena nodded anyway. Okay. They stood there in the cold building, 2 soldiers about to walk back into a world they'd tried to leave behind. Outside, the helicopter's rotors started spinning up. Garrett and the woman boarding, getting ready to leave. 72 hours, Maddox said. 72 hours, Lena confirmed. And just like that, Viper 9 stopped being dead. The briefing room in D.C. was underground. 3 levels of security, retinal scanners, armed guards. The kind of place where secrets went to live forever. Lena sat at a table with Maddox and Kowalski on either side. Across from them, Garrett, the woman, who'd finally introduced herself as Deputy Director Patricia Chen, and 2 intelligence analysts. The walls were covered with screens, satellite imagery, building layouts, terrain maps. Chen started the briefing. Target is Marcus Webb, civilian contractor. Former military. Got kidnapped 6 weeks ago while working security for a UN convoy. His captors are a splinter group with ties to Al-Shabaab. They've demanded $5 million. U.S. policy is, we don't negotiate with terrorists, Maddox finished. Yeah, we know. What's the real reason we're going in? Chen's jaw tightened. Webb has information, details about supply routes, contact networks, Intelligence that could compromise ongoing operations across East Africa. So we're not rescuing him, Kowalski said. We're keeping him from talking. We're doing both. Right. Chen pulled up an image. Compound in the middle of Mogadishu, 3-story building, walls, guard towers. This is where he's being held, 3rd floor, single room, 2 guards inside, 4 outside the door, rotating patrols every 6 hours. Lena studied the image. What's the surrounding area? Dense urban, civilian population, markets, residential buildings. Civilian casualties? Unacceptable. Then this is a bad plan. Lena pointed to the building. You want me to take a shot from where? That rooftop 3 blocks east? The angle's terrible. The wind coming off the ocean is unpredictable, and there are at least 40 civilians in the line of fire at any given time. The shot's possible, one of the analysts said. Possible and advisable are different things. We've modeled it, 1,200 meters, mild crosswind, standard temperature. Your success rate on similar shots is documented at 96%. Documented where? The analyst didn't answer. Lena looked at Garrett. You gave them my operational files. I gave them what they needed to assess feasibility. Those files are classified. Everything in this room is classified. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to walk out, but she'd made a deal. 1 mission, her terms, but still a commitment. She looked back at the screens, studied the compound, the angles, the possibilities. I need 48 hours on the ground before the operation, she said, to scout positions, to verify wind patterns, to confirm the shot is clean. We don't have 48 hours, Chen said. Webb's execution is scheduled for 60 hours from now. We need to move in 36. Then you need a different shooter. There is no different shooter, not for this. Then Webb's gonna die. The room went quiet. Garrett spoke. What if we change the approach? Instead of a long-distance shot, what if we put you inside? Inside the compound? Close quarters, suppressed weapon, take out the guards, extract Webb directly. That's a suicide mission. Not if you're good enough. Lena stared at him. You're serious. You've done insertions before. Syria, Yemen, you're trained for it. That was different. She stopped. That was when I didn't care if I made it out. The honesty of it hung in the air. Maddox leaned forward. If she goes in, we go in. Full team, proper backup. This isn't a team operation, Chen said. It is now. Those were the terms, her team, her control. Chen looked at Garrett. Some silent battle of wills. Finally, Garrett nodded. Fine, full team, but we do this smart, minimal footprint, in and out before anyone knows we're there. When do we leave? Lena asked. 8 hours. That's not enough time to... It's all the time we have. Lena looked at Maddox, at Kowalski, saw the same determination in both their faces. They were going to do this, all of them, together. For the first time since Garrett had shown up in Alaska, Lena felt something other than dread. She felt ready. Okay, she said. Let's go get Webb. Mogadishu at night looked like a dying star. Scattered lights in an ocean of darkness. Power grids that worked sometimes. Streets that belonged to whoever had the most guns. Lena watched it from the window of the safe house 3 blocks from the target compound. The building was supposed to be abandoned. Turned out it was just mostly abandoned. Squatters on the 1st floor, a family of 6 on the 2nd. They'd paid them to leave for the night. American dollars, enough to buy silence and absence. Maddox was checking weapons. Kowalski was reviewing entry routes on a tablet. 2 other team members, Rodriguez and Park, both borrowed from a special activities unit, were setting up comms equipment. 8 hours had become 6, then 4. Now they were down to 90 minutes before insertion. Garrett stood in the corner, observing. Silent. Present. The weight of command and consequence. Chen had stayed in D.C. She didn't do field work. Just gave orders from rooms with better air conditioning. Wind's picking up, Kowalski said, looking at real-time data. Coming from the southwest, gusting to 15 knots. That'll push any shots left, Rodriguez noted. He was former Marine sniper. Good. Not Lena good, but solid. If we need to go loud, accuracy drops. We're not going loud, Lena said. Not a suggestion, a fact. Suppressed weapons only, close quarters, clean. And if it goes sideways, then we adapt. Rodriguez looked at Maddox, some question in his eyes. Maddox nodded. Whatever doubt Rodriguez had, he kept it to himself. Lena checked her own weapon, HK-416 with suppressor. Subsonic rounds, effective to maybe 200 meters in these conditions. She also carried her sidearm, the Glock she'd had in the Zagan Mountains. It had been returned to her along with her other gear. Someone's idea of continuity. Her legs still hurt. The limp was mostly gone, but the damage remained. Scar tissue. Weakness. The kind of injury that would slow her down in a sprint. She'd just have to not sprint. 5 minutes, Maddox said. The team geared up. Body armor, night vision, comms, each person checking their neighbor. Old ritual, shared tension. Garrett approached Lena, kept his voice low. You don't have to do this. We've been over this. I know, but I'm saying it again. There's no shame in walking away. Yes, there is. I made a deal. Deals can be broken. Not by me. Garrett studied her face, looking for something. Doubt, maybe. Fear. He didn't find it. You're different than you were, he said. 6 years will do that. It's not just time. It's... He struggled for the word. You used to operate like a machine. Efficient, cold, no hesitation. Now there's something else. Something human. Is that a problem? I don't know. Might make you better. Might get you killed. He paused. The Lena I knew would have taken that long-distance shot without question. Wouldn't have cared about civilians in the line of fire. Mission first. Always. That Lena died in Donetsk. Did she? Or did she just learn to hide better? Lena didn't answer. Didn't know how to. Time, Maddox called. They moved. The streets of Mogadishu at 200 were emptier than expected. A few people, a few vehicles. Mostly just shadows and the smell of ocean and diesel. The team split into 2 groups. Maddox, Rodriguez, and Park went north. Their job was to create a diversion if needed. Draw attention away from the primary entry point. Lena, Kowalski, and Garrett went direct. Straight to the compound's east wall. Lowest security. Blind spot in the patrol pattern. They moved through an alley that stank of garbage and human waste. Kowalski took point. Lena in the middle. Garrett bringing up the rear, moving surprisingly well for a man his age. The compound wall was 12 feet of concrete topped with broken glass. Kowalski pulled out a grappling hook, modern version, rubberized, silent. Threw it, caught first try. He went up first. Disappeared over the top. 30 seconds later, his voice came through the comms. Clear, come up. Lena climbed. Her leg protested. She ignored it. Reached the top. Dropped into a courtyard of hard-packed dirt and shadows. Garrett came down last, landing with a grunt. They were inside. The compound was exactly like the satellite photos. 3-story building, windows dark, 2 guards visible, one at the main entrance, one walking a patrol around the perimeter. The intel said Webb was on the 3rd floor, east side, single window with bars. Lena pointed. Kowalski nodded. They moved. The guard on patrol was smoking a cigarette. Amateur mistake. The lit end was a beacon in the dark. Kowalski circled behind him, got within 6 feet, used a knife, quick, quiet. The guard went down without a sound. They dragged the body into shadow, kept moving. The entrance guard was harder. He was alert, scanning, not on his phone, not distracted, professional. Lena watched him from cover, studied his pattern. Every 40 seconds he'd turn his head left, check the courtyard, then back to center. 40 seconds. That was the window. She waited, counted. 38, 39, 40. His head turned left. She moved, crossed 15 meters in complete silence, came up behind him as his head was swinging back. Her hand went over his mouth, knife to the throat. He tried to fight. Strong, well-trained. She held on, kept pressure, felt him weaken, collapse. Set him down gently. No noise. Kowalski was already at the door, checking it. Locked. I can pick it, but it'll take time. How much? 3 minutes, maybe 4. Too long, too exposed. Garrett came forward, Try the handle. It's locked. Try it anyway. Kowalski tried it. The handle turned, door opened, unlocked. They looked at each other. Something was wrong. You didn't leave doors unlocked in a hostage situation. Unless... It's a trap, Lena said quietly. Or they're just lazy, Kowalski offered. No one's that lazy. Garrett checked his weapon. Only one way to find out. They went in. The interior was dark, smelled like sweat and gun oil and fear. Hallway stretched ahead. Stairs to the right. No guards visible. Too quiet. Lena took point now, weapon up. Night vision painting everything in green ghost light. She moved up the stairs, each step careful, each breath controlled. Second floor. Empty hallway. Doors closed. No movement. Third floor. This is where it would happen, where the ambush waited. She reached the landing, scanned left, right. Nothing. Then she saw it. Wire. Thin. Across the hallway at ankle height. Tripwire. She held up a fist. Stop. Kowalski and Garrett froze. Lena knelt, examined the wire, followed it with her eyes to a doorway. To something that looked like IED, she whispered into comms. Hallway's rigged. Can you disarm it? Maddox's voice came back. Not without tools and time we don't have. Then how do we get to Webb? Lena looked up. The ceiling was thin plaster, cheap construction. Beyond it would be the roof. We go up, she said. They moved back down, found an exterior stairwell, climbed to the roof. Mogadishu spread out around them, city of lights and darkness, ocean breeze carrying salt and smoke. Lena moved to the east side, found the window she was looking for, barred, dark. She knelt beside it, listened. Voices, faint. Inside, 2 men, speaking Arabic, relaxed, casual, not expecting trouble. And another voice, weaker, English, American accent, Webb. Kowalski set up a rope, tied it to a vent stack. Lena secured it to her harness. I'm going down, she said. Give me 30 seconds, then Rodriguez creates the diversion. What kind of diversion? Rodriguez asked over comms. Loud, flashy, north side of the building. Make them think there's a full assault coming. Copy that. Lena swung her legs over the edge. Garrett caught her arm. If you die doing this, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'll try not to. Good. She rappelled down. 10 feet. The window came into view. Inside, she could see 2 guards, both armed, both focused on Webb, who was tied to a chair, beaten, bloody, but alive. Lena positioned herself, drew her sidearm. The suppressed HK-416 was too bulky for this angle. She counted down. 20 seconds. 15. 10. The diversion hit right on schedule. Explosion. North side. Loud. Bright. Rodriguez had used something bigger than expected. Both guards spun toward the sound. Moved to the door. Started yelling. Lena put a round through the window. The glass, already cracked, shattered. She fired twice more. Center mass. Both guards. They dropped. She swung through the window. Boots hit floor. Weapon up. Scanning. Clear. Webb was staring at her. Eyes wide. Confused. Terrified. Marcus Webb? She asked. Who are you? Extraction. Are you hurt? Can you walk? Yes, I think so. Save it. We need to move. She cut his restraints with her knife. He stood, stumbled, caught himself. Gunfire erupted outside. More yelling. The diversion was working, but it wouldn't last. Up, Lena said. We're going to the roof. I can't climb. I can't. You can, or you die here. Choose. That got through. Fear was an excellent motivator. Kowalski dropped the rope through the window. Webb grabbed it. Started climbing. Slow, clumsy, but moving. Lena covered the door, heard boots in the hallway, coming fast. The door burst open. 3 guards. Weapons up, she fired. Hit the first, the second. The third got a shot off. Missed. She didn't. 3 more bodies. Move, she yelled up at Webb. He was halfway up. Kowalski grabbing his arms, pulling. More boots, more voices. The entire compound was waking up. Lena fired through the doorway. Suppressive bursts, not aiming, just creating space. Webb made it to the roof. Your turn, Garrett yelled down. Lena holstered her sidearm, grabbed the rope, started climbing. A bullet hit the wall beside her head, sprayed concrete dust in her eyes. She kept climbing, hand over hand, legs screaming, arms burning. Another bullet. This one closer. 10 feet to go. 8, 6. Hands grabbed her, pulled her over the edge. She rolled, came up, weapon ready. Below guards were flooding into the room, looking up, raising weapons. Run! Maddox's voice over comms. North side. Exfil vehicle inbound. They ran. Across the roof, Webb barely keeping up, Lena half dragging him. Reached the north edge. Rope already deployed. Rodriguez and Park were down already. In the street. Covering. Webb went down. Then Kowalski. Then Garrett. Lena was last. Always last. She was halfway down when she heard it. The distinctive sound of an RPG being armed. RPG, she screamed. Move! The rocket hit the building just above her. Explosion, heat, pressure wave. The rope snapped. She fell. Down. Lena woke up in the back of a moving vehicle. Everything hurt. Everywhere. Like she'd been hit by a truck. She's awake, Kowalski's voice. Faces above her. Maddox, Garrett, Rodriguez, Webb, looking like hell but alive. What? Her voice didn't work right. She tried again. What happened? Fell 20 feet, Maddox said. Landed on Rodriguez. He broke your fall, and maybe his collarbone. Sorry, Lena managed. Worth it, Rodriguez said from somewhere she couldn't see. He sounded like he meant it. Are we clear? Halfway to the airport, planes waiting. Lena tried to sit up. Bad idea. Everything spun. Easy, Garrett said. You probably have a concussion. Just rest. Webb? Right here, the contractor said. He looked down at her. Thank you. I can't. Thank you. Job, Lena said. Then darkness took her again. She woke up properly 18 hours later. In a hospital, clean white walls, American hospital, safe. Maddox was in the chair beside her bed, reading the same damn report from before. Do you ever do anything else? She asked. He looked up, smiled. You're back. Apparently. What's the damage? Concussion, 3 cracked ribs, your leg wound reopened, bruises everywhere. Doctor says you'll live, but you need to stop falling off buildings. I'll add it to the list. What list? Things I need to stop doing. Maddox set down the report. We got Webb out. Mission success. Chen is calling it a win. Garrett is writing it up as proof that Viper 9 methodology still works. Great. You don't sound happy. I'm not unhappy, just... Lena paused. Tired. I'm tired. Yeah, I bet. Silence. Comfortable. Two people who'd been through enough together that words weren't always necessary. Garrett wants to talk to you, Maddox said finally. About your deal, about what happens next. Tell him I remember. One mission, then I'm done. He knows, but he wants to discuss it anyway. There's nothing to discuss. Humor him. He flew 6,000 miles. Least you can do is have a conversation. Lena sighed. Fine. When? Now, if you're up for it. Might as well. Maddox left, came back with Garrett. The older man looked tired, worn, like the mission had aged him. He pulled up a chair, sat heavily. Hell of a job in Mogadishu, he said. We got lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it. That was skill, training, instinct. He paused. That was Viper 9. Viper 9 is dead. Is she? Because I watched you operate, watched you make decisions under fire, watched you save that team and complete the mission despite impossible odds. That looked pretty alive to me. What do you want, Garrett? I want to offer you something. Something real. Not a one-off mission. Not a favor for old times. A permanent position. Full reinstatement. Commander-level authority. You'd run your own unit. Pick your own people. Take the missions you want. No. You haven't heard the terms. Don't need to. The answer's no. Why? Lena looked at him. Really looked. Saw the genuine confusion in his eyes. He honestly didn't understand. Because I don't want to be that person anymore, she said. The one who operates in the dark, who makes the hard calls, who kills so others can have clean hands. I did that for years. It cost me everything. My identity, my humanity, parts of myself I'll never get back. But you're good at it. Being good at something doesn't mean you should keep doing it. The world needs people like you, people who can do what others can't. The world has plenty of people like me. Trained killers with flexible morals and high body counts. What the world needs is people who know when to stop, who know there are lines that shouldn't be crossed. She met his eyes. You taught me to be a weapon, but you never taught me how to be a person again. Garrett was quiet. When he spoke, his voice was soft. I'm sorry for what I took from you, for what I asked you to become. I believed we were serving something bigger, something worth the sacrifice. Maybe you were, maybe you are, but I'm done sacrificing. So what will you do? I don't know yet. Figure it out as I go. Be someone. Be no one. Just be. Garrett stood, extended his hand. Then I hope you find whatever you're looking for. Lena shook it. Thank you. For everything, even the parts I hated. You made me into something that mattered. Now I get to decide what I become next. He nodded, left without another word. Lena lay back in the bed, felt lighter somehow, like a weight she'd been carrying for years had finally lifted. Maddox came back in. How'd it go? He offered me a job. I said no. We parted on good terms. Really? Really? Huh. Didn't expect that. Neither did I. Maddox sat down. So what now? What's the plan? No plan. That's kind of the point. You need somewhere to go. Someone to... He stopped. Started over. Look, the team's heading back to Alaska. We'd be happy to have you. If you want, no pressure, no expectations. Just, a place. Lena thought about that, about Alaska, about cold and isolation and a team that had seen her at her worst and still wanted her around. Yeah, she said, I'd like that. Yeah? Yeah. Maddox smiled, actually smiled. Good, because Kowalski's been worried you'd disappear. Kid's gotten attached. He's not a kid. Compared to us, he is. Fair point. How long until I'm cleared to travel? Lena asked. Doctor says 3 days, maybe 4. I can do 3. Of course you can. The discharge papers came through on day 3. Clean bill of health with recommendations for physical therapy and mandatory psych evaluation. Lena ignored the psych eval, walked out of the hospital in civilian clothes that felt wrong after weeks in uniform. The team was waiting. Maddox, Kowalski, Rodriguez, arm in a sling but grinning, Park. A few others who'd been pulled in for various missions. Ready? Maddox asked. Ready. They drove to the airport, military transport waiting, same one they'd taken to Mogadishu. Chen was there. Last surprise. She approached Lena, handed her a folder. What's this? Official discharge, full honors, clean record, and a notation that Specialist Lena Voss completed her service with distinction and is to be left alone. Will they honor that? I'll make sure they do. Consider it payment for services rendered. I thought the deal was 1 mission. It was. You delivered. This is me holding up my end. Chen paused. For what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. Not everyone's built for the shadows. But some are. Some are. Chen extended her hand. Good luck, Specialist. They shook. Chen left. The team boarded the plane, found seats, strapped in. As the engine spooled up, Lena looked out the window, saw DC falling away beneath them. City of power and secrets and decisions made in rooms she'd never see. She was done with that world. Finally. Completely. Done. Kowalski was asleep across the aisle. Rodriguez was playing some game on his phone. Park was reading. Maddox sat beside her. Thinking about anything in particular? He asked. Yeah. About how I got here. All the choices, all the missions, all the people I've been. And I think I'm ready to be someone new, Someone who doesn't have a call sign or a classified record. Someone who's just normal. You'll never be normal. No, but I can get closer. The plane climbed, through clouds, into clear sky. Below, the world continued. Wars fought. Missions run. People trained to be weapons sent to do impossible things. Lena had been one of them, had been the best of them. Now she got to be something else. The thought should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like freedom. 3 weeks later, Lena stood on a firing range in Alaska. Temperature -15, wind gusting, snow falling, terrible conditions, perfect conditions. Maddox was beside her, Kowalski downrange with the targets. "Whenever you're ready," Maddox said. Lena settled into position, felt the familiar weight of the rifle, the cold bite of metal, the absolute certainty of muscle memory built over thousands of hours. She looked through the scope, adjusted for wind, for cold, for distance. 800 meters. Moving target. Impossible shot. She breathed, found the quiet space between heartbeats, fired. Through the scope, she watched the target jerk. Center mass. Perfect. Kowalski's voice came over the radio. "Hit! Dead center! You still got it!" "Never lost it," she said. But that wasn't quite true. She'd lost something in the Zagan Mountains, lost the certainty that being a weapon was all she could be, lost the belief that her only value was in taking life. And she'd found something else, something better. Purpose without programming, skill without servitude. The choice to help not because she was ordered to, but because she wanted to. She set down the rifle, looked at Maddox. "I'm done for today." "Okay. Same time tomorrow?" "Yeah, same time tomorrow." They walked back to the base, snow crunching under boots. Wind howling. The mountain in the distance, silent and eternal. Somewhere in a classified file, Viper 9 remained dead, buried under redactions and denials. And Lena Voss, quiet, damaged, impossibly skilled Lena Voss, was finally, truly alive. The debrief would say the mission was a success. 7 hostiles neutralized, 1 American contractor extracted, 0 friendly casualties. But the real victory wasn't in the numbers. It was in the moment when a team refused to leave someone behind. When a commander realized that cold math didn't account for human worth. When a soldier learned that survival wasn't the same as living. The mountains were full of lessons written in blood and ice. Most people never learned them. The ones who did rarely survived to tell about it. Lena had survived, had learned, had chosen to keep learning. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Sometimes the person everyone abandons becomes the one who saves them all. But the real victory isn't in the saving. It's in learning you're worth saving too.